Hello, good afternoon, and welcome once again to our next instalment of our live stream series where we are talking about Apple Teacher, the fabulous free online CPD program provided by Apple for schools and teachers using iPads and Macs. My name is Richard Child. I'm the Education Manager for MCC Digital, and we, of course, are an Apple authorized education specialist helping schools across the country with their iPads and Macs. Delivering impact in the classroom. And part of the reason we were able to deliver impact in the classroom is Mr. David Kirtland, who joins us once again as an Apple Professional Learning Specialist. And David today is going to take us through my absolute favourite Apple app, which is Keynote. Keynote, a little bit of trivia, was created by Apple at the request of their former founder and CEO, Mr. Steve Jobs, because he didn't feel that any of the presentation tools at the time let him get his message across in quite the right way. So why is that? Show us some of these amazing features in Keynote. Take it away, David.
Thank you, Richard. Well, that's it. Keynote is such a useful tool in the classroom, and it is there for creating presentations, and it does a great job of that. But as you get more and more familiar with Keynote as an app and all the type of things you can do with it, it actually becomes a really valuable tool for creating animations and creating even app mock-ups. If you're starting to think about app design and coding, you can make a working model of it all in Keynote, and it's so flexible for creating content. So let's just jump back to the Apple Teacher Learning Center. So this is appleteacher.apple.com, and just remind ourselves where we are with this. So we've spent a bit of time already having a look at some of these resources. There's those great tips for teachers, and we're now working through the learning skills for iPad. So if you've joined us for the other sessions, hopefully by now you've already gained your iPad badge. We've had a look at the overview, and we've already worked through the Pages badge as well. Now, today we're going to go on, as Richard has just said, and have a look at some of these topics in the Keynote badge. And one of the things you'll notice straight away when we jump into Keynote is that deliberately it does work a lot like Pages. So if you're feeling confident with Pages now, you're halfway there with Keynote already, because they are so similar, so that they have that familiarity and they all work in a similar kind of way, but they each have their own strengths and a few nice things we can do with it. So let's jump straight in. These are some of the things that we need to look at to make sure we've covered them for our badge. So we're going to start off by having a look at using the slides and working with the templates, just like we did with Pages, and we'll add a few photos and shapes in there before we move on to some of the more interesting things we can do with Keynote. So let's jump back to it. So obviously Keynote is where we started with that little title slide. So let's go back to our presentations. And like all of these, I'm now looking at all the documents on my iPad. So let's press plus to create a new one. And straight away it's saying, don't want to create an outline or a theme. Well, we're going to use a theme. So we've got those building blocks there all ready for us. And we can see, just like Pages, there's dozens of these themes, and these look great, and we can go across with them and have a look at some more of the content on here. And these are brilliant for starting out when we're creating our presentations. We do get some blank ones, and we can adjust the size if we don't want to do this widescreen format. So we have got a lot of flexibility there. But let's just have a quick look. Let's pick one to start with, just so we can see how things are laid out in Keynote. And straight away, we can see our big slide there. And down the left-hand side, we have the little thumbnails of our slides as we work through them. We only have one there at the moment. That's just a slide that's on the screen. Now, if we look up in the top right-hand corner, we can see these buttons. And hopefully, if you've had a look at the iPad Pages badge, you will recognize most of them. So we should know that little plus there is for adding new content to our slides. We've got a paintbrush for when we want to edit any of those objects that we've put on our slides. And there's that collaboration tool that we worked through with the Pages badge as well. So multiple people can work on the same document simultaneously just by sharing that link there. We do now also get that play button, because obviously we often create a presentation, so we do need to play the presentation so we can make it full screen. But other than that, most of these buttons here should be fairly familiar. So let's have a look at our templates. This is what it's given us. There's two text boxes here, and it tells me on the screen, double tap to edit. So it's really nice, straightforward to put our text into these slides. Now, in the bottom left-hand corner, if I press plus, that lets me add more slides to my presentation. And within this template, instead of it just being one style, I've got all these other formats to start working with, just to keep my presentation nice and interesting as we're working through our slides. So I think I'm going to add another one here. Let's put one that has a nice big picture in there. So maybe that will be a good starting slide. Maybe that's like my title. But I've now got it on my left-hand side as my second slide. So we can just hold on to these and we can just drag them around to reorder those slides. So it's now my first title slide. And like any other template, if I want to change anything on it, it's nice and simple. I've got a plus next to that image. It's a nice image, but it's not really what I want for my presentation. So let's press plus, and it takes me to the option here to choose a new photo or a video, or I could create something live straight into the document. So I'm going to choose a photo, and this will take me to my photo library on my iPad. Let's have a quick look at my albums. Let's pull something in quickly. Let's have one of these pictures of the seaside in. There's a nice picture of a sunset on a pier. So let's use that one. And it automatically formats it so it sits within that template really quite nicely. We've got those blue dots. We can move the image around. We can resize it if we want, but that's sitting quite nicely. And of course, double tap to edit, and we can see how easy it is to start putting our presentations together. We can easily now keep working on this, add more templates, more slides in here, and produce quite a slick looking presentation using those templates. Now let's go back to our presentations. Let's create a brand new blank one this time. So let's choose a new theme, and let's go for one of these plain ones. I often use a white one actually when we're creating a lot of content beyond the slide, so using it for animations and all sorts of other things. A white one is a good starting point, but I think for this one I'm going to go for this gradient color. Gives it a bit more of a color splash on there. It might look quite nice. So just like before, there's our template. I've got 3 text boxes this time with that nice colorful writing. If I have a look at the plus, there's the different styles that we can work with. So we've got lots of templates within the template that we can start working with. And let's put something together here to explore some of those other features. Let's create a little project around mini bees, the kind of animals we might find in the back garden. We often do this with Key Stage 1 probably. So let's have a look. So I'm going to double tap on this text box. Let's call it mini beasts. And I think in the second text box, we'll say my garden. And that's looking okay. In fact, in this bottom text box, let's put my name so we know who's doing our work for us today. And there we go. There's the sort of thing that the children might start creating to introduce their topic. If I press the plus, it takes us up to the things we can now add into our Keynote file. And by default, I've got this last one selected here already. This is my media tab. So this lets me add anything into it, like photos or videos. Notice I can use the camera to take photos directly into it, which is great for the younger children. Just going and evidencing what they're doing, it just appears there in the right kind of format for us. We have got that option to record audio. So we can put our audio elements in there and add a voiceover, just like we did with Pages, if you had a look at the Pages badge, and a few other things there. There's our drawing tools as well, all under that media badge. But let's go to our photos. And I'm going to go back to my albums, and I've got a few pictures of butterflies here. This will be a good starting point. And maybe I want to add this image into my first slide so it's looking a bit nicer. Now, the template I'm using doesn't have that space for the image. We've got to kind of put this one in ourselves. So I've got these dots, and I can resize this and I can move it around. And I think maybe for now, if I just put it down in this bottom corner, it's starting to look okay. If I double tap the image, it takes me to my edit mask tools. So if there's part of this image which I want to hide, I can just crop it away. I can mask it out of the way, or I can change the zoom level of the image within the mask. But I think actually this one's okay as it is. But if we've got the image selected and we go to our paintbrush, I've got a few options here for things like style and arrange. But on the image tab, there's that button for edit mask. We've just seen those features by double tapping the image. It takes me to the same place. But there's a nice option here, which is one of those favorite little tools called Instant Alpha. Now, it is there in Pages and Numbers, but it tends to be Keynote where we use this most. So if I go to Instant Alpha, it's now telling me on the screen, drag across colors to make them transparent. Now, what that really means is that there are colors on this picture now that I can make invisible, I can make those disappear and effectively cut something out. So if I make that green and yellow background disappear, we could just have a picture of the butterfly and the flower. Now, the simpler the background the easier this is to do. We've got a bit more of a complicated background here because it's not just a solid color. We've got different shades of green. There's that bit of yellow and a bit of pink in the top corner. So we have to be a little bit more careful. So I'm going to just zoom in and just pinch in to give me a little bit more space to see things. And if I touch that green, it puts a circle on it. And as I push up the screen, it starts selecting the different shades of green. So it's all going that kind of purple color. And the more I push up, the more shades of green it starts to select. And if I keep going until I've cut the background out, if I go too far, notice it's selected the flower and the butterfly there. That's no good, really. We need to go down a little bit now and go back up and just make sure we've selected the background, but not the part of the image we want to keep. And when I select it, those bits now are highlighted to make them transparent when we press done. But there's some bits I've missed. So this big yellow bit in the corner, let's get that one. So I can do this now in 2 or 3 goes. Let's try and get rid of some of this green in between the petals here. So doing this in a few goes gives me a bit more control for getting rid of these other bits. Can I get that little bit there? Let's try it. Okay, I think that's probably good enough. Let's have a look. So if I press done, there we go. There's my slide now with my butterfly that's been cut out from the background. So it just sits there really nicely on the slide. And that's just an image. So I can resize it. I can move it around. And I think actually a little bit bigger there. It kind of fits within the writing, doesn't it? And notice the colors there actually fit with that style in the template, those kind of blues and pinks. So we've got a lot of creative control here for putting things into our slides or into our diagrams, for having pictures in here that aren't always sat within that square box. And that Instant Alpha is a really nice little tool for helping when we put images into our slides. So we've had a look at templates. We've put some text in here, and we now started working with photographs and using that Instant Alpha tool. Let's just jump back to our Apple Teacher for a moment and just remind ourselves where we're looking at. So we've developed those skills around working with some slides and photos. Let's have a look at adding some shapes into our presentation. So back to Keynote. I'm going to add another slide in, and those are all those templates, but I think I'm going to go for a blank one. So it's a fresh slide with nothing on it at all. If we go back to that plus, where we added our media content, the next tab along are all shapes. And there's dozens and dozens of these shapes as we swipe through these and up and down and see all sorts of different topics. And we can recolor these, we can put images behind them, we can mix them together. We can do all sorts with these shapes. I'm going to use the magnifying glass there. I'm just going to search for, let's have a look under bugs. And as I start typing it, some appear. So let's have that butterfly first. And let's put that over in this top corner. And if that's selected and I press the paintbrush, I've got some styles. I can obviously go to my fill color, and I've got loads of colors I can pick here. I can even add gradients and images behind it. I think I'm going to go for a standard style. Let's make it yellow for now. And we've got a nice simple icon of a butterfly. This would be good for kind of setting up a contents element, a contents page to our presentation. Let's go back to our bugs. Let's put a ladybird in. Make it a bit bigger. I'll put this one over here. And let's add a style, let's add a color. So this one has to be red, really, doesn't it? So let's add one more. And oh, we got an ant there. I think we'll have this one. Put that one down there, make it a bit bigger. And I think if we go to our paintbrush, let's make this one green. So really quite quick and easy to work with these shapes. And there's so many of them, they become a really powerful tool within Keynote. Let's add some text. It is worth knowing, if I reset my filter there, my search tool, I've got all these pages of shapes, but the very first one there is one that we quite often miss this when we're looking through these, but the first one there is just a plain text box. So if I want to add some more text boxes in, on top of those that maybe are already there as part of that template, let's use that text option there. And it's just put a little text box there in the middle of the screen. Let's double tap it and we can put our text in. Let's say butterflies. And there we go. And I'll double tap it so it's selected, and we can use our paintbrush. I've got a text option here. So we've got all the usual things where we can change the font and the size and the color, but I'm going to go to that preset style because we've used yellow for the butterfly. So let's put that preset of the yellow one there. So that one will do. I'll put it up here with the butterfly. And those yellow lines there are just useful little markers so we know when things are lined up or in the middle of the spaces. Let's add a couple more of these in. So let's put one for the ladybird. And I think we'll use that paintbrush and use the red one. There we go, we've got the yellow lines to help us get that in the middle again. And one more. And this is for the ant. And this one needs to be green, doesn't it, to match with the icon. So there we go. So let's put this one down here. Let's find the middle of the ant. There it is. Okay, so our slide is starting to take form now. Now, obviously, we could put normal text in there and put as much information as we like, but we can carry on with this. Let's add some more slides. So I think I'm going to use this one from the template, which has a lovely picture here, but not really what we want. So let's replace that with that little plus. And let's choose a photo from our album. So we're on butterflies, so I think we'll use, let's go with this blue one for now. We'll put that one there because that fits in there quite nice. Don't forget, I've still got all those edit mask tools, all those instant alpha options. I've got 3 text boxes here. Butterflies, there it is. I don't think I need that subtitle. So if I tap it, it brings up this menu with these options here, and there's delete right there in the middle of it. So let's just remove that text box. And I've already got some bullet points. So this is where we can add our facts about butterflies. So if we've already done some research, maybe we've developed that independence and we've started getting the children making some notes and thinking about butterflies, this is where maybe we can evidence some of that knowledge. So we've got something looking quite nice there. Let's add a second one in. We'll do the same with the ladybird. So I think I'm going to use the same template. So change that picture again. And if I have a look through my photos, if I go back down here, I should find, there we go, there's a picture of a ladybird. We'll use that one. Ladybird. We'll remove that one. So tap on it and let's delete the content. And we can put our facts about ladybirds in there. So we're now starting to see how we can build up our slideshow and our presentation. We can put all these formats together and start creating something quite nice. Now let's just jump back to the Apple Teacher page. So we've had a look at using some of the shapes, and we've got a few more tools in here that we need to be thinking about. We've got drawing tools, we've got tables we can put in here, and we've got a few little options for animation. So let's explore some of those as well. Now, like any presentation tool, I might want to think about how I jump through my slides. So if I tap my first slide here and press the play button, as I tap the screen, it will let me jump from one slide to the next, just as you would expect any presentation tool to do. And in fact, if I tap on the slides on the left-hand side and bring the menu up, I've got a few options here, including transitions. So if I add a transition in, we've got all these options that we can add to transition between the different slides. Things like the grid are quite nice, or maybe the cube is always popular as well. So there's some really nice slick animation styles for creating these transitions between them. But when we're working with Keynote in the classroom, we might not always want to have a linear structure where we go from one slide to another. If we do have that option to add in our presenter notes just by tapping that little icon in the top corner, and it will give us the option to add some presenter notes in there. So maybe we want to add some kind of memory reminders in there, or some little scripts that we want to work with that we see when we're presenting, but the audience don't. So that's how we get to our notes. I'm just going to turn those off. But if we want to present our information here in a non-linear structure, maybe I want to use these icons, these shapes, as buttons to jump around. So when I press the butterfly, it takes me to information about the butterfly. When I take the ladybird, it takes me to a ladybird page, and same with the ant. So in which case, if I tap on that icon, that shape, I've got this menu pop up again, but there's a link button towards the end of it. And if I tap link, I can link that to a web page to go externally if I want. But in our case, I don't want it to link to the next slide. I'm going to link to a slide number. So I'm on slide 2. And in fact, actually, I do want this one to go to slide 3, but that's OK. So there we go. So that will now link us to slide 3. If I look at the ladybird, and I want that to take me to the ladybird information, this one needs to link to slide 4. So let's try it. If I press the ladybird, it takes me straight to slide 4. I'm stuck there at the moment, though. I've got no way of going back. I can go forward if I had another slide after it, but I need to get back to that menu. So we might have to add another shape in. Let's put an arrow in, and let's just use this as a back button. Now, my back button is kind of pointing the wrong way, so we can literally just grab it and turn it round, put it down here. Exactly the same again. Let's tap it and add link. And we're going to link back to slide 2 now, which is where our buttons are. So back to slide 2. And there we go. And let's copy that so we don't have to do this again, and put it onto the butterfly page as well. So let's just try it to double check. Let's press play. There's our butterfly, and we've got a back button. There's our ladybird, and we can go back there. And we've not done the ant, but we could do if we had longer to create this content. So we're really starting to get to grips with how we might put a presentation together and how we can jump around it and start creating different types of content. Now, let's add another slide at the bottom, because the next one of those things in the Apple teacher side was looking at the drawing tools. So let's make sure we're confident with some of these. So let's have a new blank slide. And there it is. We've got under plus, under media, we've got the options here to use our drawing tools. And there they are, popped up along the bottom. And you can use either your finger or an Apple Pencil if you happen to have these as well. And we've got lots of tools here that we can use. We can use the pens, the different styluses. We've got a crayon on there. I'm going to use this one actually, which is a fill tool, which is a really nice one for creating shapes if we wanted to maybe draw diagrams to help explain a concept, or maybe even as a teacher, I could use this to annotate work. So if children have produced something in Keynote, I could use this to give them some feedback and some highlights and some notes as we go in. But I'm going to use this little fill tool, and let's draw a ladybird. So this is quite nice, because as I draw the shape, as I pull it out, you see how it kind of fills it in there. Now, that's great, but we've got to need to think about our colors. So let's just undo that one. And we've got the whole color option here. We've got a selection tool where we can actually even use an ink dropper as well and get some really detailed colors. So let's start putting our ladybird together. So I can draw this ladybird here. We'll do it rough and ready. Maybe if I go to my tools now, maybe we want to put some spots on it. Let's have some black ones. And we can put some little spots on here, and it's automatically filling those circles for me, which is nice and quick and easy. Obviously, you can spend a little bit more time with this. I think I'm going to use a grey this time because we've got quite a dark background, but let's put one here, and let's put a head on, and maybe a couple of little eyes. And I think this time, let's go back to our grey, but we'll use a pen tool, and let's put some, oh, not blue. Let's go back to our grey. There we are, grey. And let's put some legs on here. And one of the things we can do once we've done this is it knows exactly the order we've drawn these in. So when we're looking at the animation tools, you can even animate the line drawing the way we've drawn this, which is another nice way of explaining a concept. So we can just keep drawing and adding more things, and that's just there under that menu for the drawing tools. But all those individual elements of that object are now linked. So I can move that anywhere around the screen. It's just one object. I can resize it. I can do different things to it. Now, in that animation option, if I tap on that picture of the ladybird now, I do have that animate tool there. And I have 3 options. I have the option to build in, which is how that object might appear. That's where you'll find that line drawing tool. So if you've done a line drawing, it will follow the routes you drew that image. I have a build out, how the image might disappear, might leave that slide. Or in our case, I've got an add action, which is the one I'm going to use here. An add action is if we want something to happen to that object while it's on the screen. And I've got loads of things here, things like flipping it around and jiggling and popping and so on. There's an interesting one there called create path. And this means I can grab that object and I can just drag it around the slide now. So this is the route I want my ladybird to take across the screen. This might be nice if you're thinking about coding, teaching those kind of movements we do when we say move forward 1, turn left, move, draw out a route and a map, and we have to work our way around that option there. But we can move an object around that route now. I have an option on here of setting the speed of this, and we don't actually control how fast or slow an object moves. We control the amount of time it takes. Now, depending on the time and the length of that route will affect the speed it moves. I'm going to make this a little bit longer so it does move slower. So I think over 7 seconds is probably okay. Let's have a quick look. And we have that little acceleration to give it a nice smooth movement to it as we go in. So we're getting through now. Let's press done, and we're getting through these Apple Teacher requirements. So we've seen the drawing. We've got to have a quick look at tables and charts, and we've done some of the animation already. So let's add one more slide. Let's go back and add another blank slide. And if we press plus again, we've seen the media tab, we've seen the shapes tab. We've got two more now where we can add some charts and we can add some tables. So depending what our topic is, we might want to do a bit of data collection and present it back. I'm going to use a chart, I think, and this gives me options of 2D charts, and I've got lots of colors and styles to choose from here. I could do a 3D chart, so I can change the viewpoint and the angle, or I've got some interactive ones, and these are nice, especially when we want to add the audio element so we can explain what's happening, because we can show how data sets change over time, maybe, depending what the topic is. So let's go for this bar chart. And there it is. It's put my chart on the page like that. And I've got some numbers already filled in for us. It's showing me times of the year, and I've got different numbers for different regions. And as we click through the chart, which is as we're tapping through the presentation, those numbers animate to give me a real-time movement in that graph. Now, they look great. They're very slick, but the numbers are not quite what we want for our presentation about mini beasts. So if we tap on that chart, I have a few more options there, and in the middle is edit data. But this takes me to this little page here where I can now edit any of these numbers. So where it says region 1, let's change that to butterflies. So maybe we've done a little bit of time in our back garden counting how many butterflies we saw over April, May, and then June. So we'll use the numbers that are there. So 75 butterflies while we're in April, same again in May, but we saw a few more in June as the flowers were coming out. Let's see what we did with ladybirds, and the same with ants, and obviously any of the mini beasts that we had a look at. Now I've only got three different mini beasts, so let's tap this region, this line here, and let's just delete that row completely. So we can make this customized. We can put rows in, we can take them out depending on what our information is. And of course, all these numbers, if we saw a few more, we can change that to 87 or whatever our particular figures are. We've made our notes. This is just a way of presenting that data. So let's have a look. We press done, and there's my now updated graph showing me the different animals. We saw lots of ants in May, but by June, the ladybirds were starting to take over, and ants made a bit of a comeback in July. So we've got our data there that we found when we've done our counting different things we've discovered out in the back garden. So really, that's just the first kind of steps with Keynote. There is so much we can use this for in the classroom. It really is that Swiss Army knife of apps when we're starting to think about teaching here. The final thing we might need to think about, if I press the 3 dots, the more button up in the top corner, is when we've finished, I can export this in various formats. So there's a few things we can do there. I could export this as a movie, which is really quite a flexible option if we're thinking about sharing this somewhere else. Maybe export it as a movie and take it into a documentary we've created in iMovie. Maybe we're making a news broadcast and we've got this bit where we're presenting our facts and we've got these slides pop up. We could have had an audio in there with that record button. So we've got lots of things in there as well. But it really is a flexible tool in the classroom. And that's just getting started so we can work through the Keynote Apple Teacher Badge.
Absolutely incredible. And we've only just really scratched the surface with Keynote, haven't we? It's just such a flexible tool. My very own background was created, my arms disappeared then. My very own backgrounds were created with Keynote, and it's just such a simple tool, but you can get a really elegant looking result. And Instant Alpha, big fan of that. It's just incredible. So you can use it. It's one of those apps where you can use it at any age group, I would suggest, and with any subject. And it's just absolutely fabulous. So, Apple Teacher, hopefully that's whet your appetite. We are working through the badges through this series. Excuse me a moment. And the QR code on that screen in front of you will take you to Apple's overview of the program. And the lower barcode will take you to the all-important sign-up page. You just sign up with your Apple ID. So that's your iTunes account, your Apple TV account, or just, if you don't have an Apple ID, then here's a very good reason to sign up and get yourself on the program. And as we've seen when we were looking in the first episode of this series about that Apple Teacher Learning Center, It's not just a gateway to the training that we're working through now, but it is very much a hub for all the latest news for classroom resources from Apple. So a whole lot of information now about things like augmented reality and other exciting things that you can use iPad and Mac with in your classroom setting. So do go and take a look, get signed up, get the badge. Now, if you are a school who has ambition for iPad, maybe got a couple of class sets, maybe just secured some more through the various government schemes that are rolling out at the moment, then it may be that we can help you with an Apple Planning Essentials workshop. This is where we look at 40 or so elements that go to make up a successful deployment and impactful rollout of iPads in your setting. We look at all kinds of things. We look at vision strategy, we look at learning, we look at teaching, and we look at the environment, which that being your network infrastructure, the IT bit that sort of surrounds the iPads. How do we put apps on different groups of iPads? How do we manage settings, that kind of thing? So if you'd like to carry out this amazing workshop, then do contact us. So what we do is we sort through all of those various different elements and we put them into piles. We'll say, these particular things are done, or these are going to go onto our to-do list. These are on our will-do pile, and there may be some there that you just don't you don't need to do. So we'll do that card sort. We'll end up with a to-do list, your will-do pile, and then what we do is we map them out onto your plan. That's a plan for your school. In the olden times, when we used to be able to come out and do this in person, we would leave you with a 2-meter wide poster. That's what you can see on the photo there, with literally the elements, the cards stuck on with blue tack or sellotape. A great visual reference to go forward with. We can do this virtually. So instead, what we'll do is we actually use a numbers file. We're going to look at numbers in the next episode, I think, we'll make a PDF of the plan. But basically, that's your way forward with your next steps to roll out your iPad deployment. If you would like us to help you with that, and we'd love to, please do drop us an email at education@mccdigital.com, and we'd love to talk to you about that. That's it for today. Thank you for watching. And what have we got next? We've got numbers. Give us a teaser, David.
We're going to have a look at Numbers, which is probably one of the more underused apps because it is a spreadsheet, but there are still some really quite nice ideas we can use that for in the classroom as well.
Excellent, thank you. We look forward to that. That will be posted, as will this video and all our videos, posted on the MCC YouTube channel. Do feel free to share those with colleagues, and we'd love to get your feedback on how we're doing. Thank you. We'll see you next time. Thanks very much. Bye-bye.